Hi guys. Um, just a minute. Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Electronics Summer Internship information session. I think we can get started. I think enough people have joined. Hi everyone. My name is Irawati Thete. You guys can call me Ira. And here's a little something about myself. So I'm a single degree electronics and electrical engineering student of the 2020 batch. So I'll be going in my fourth year now. And currently, I'm interning in Texas Instruments as an analog test engineer um, in the analog power products team. So, so I'll be talking a little bit about my summer internship experience and my journey into getting the summer internship. I had gotten my summer internship through this program called Women in Semiconductor and Hardware, or WISH for short. It was this diversity program that Texas Instruments had conducted last year, and I think that was their first edition. I won't get too much into it, but I basically applied in January of 2022. And the first round was like the shortlisting was based on resume, and you need to have a letter of recommendation from a professor from your college, someone who you've preferably done like an SOP under. Um, and So the first round was based on resume and LOR. And then after that, in March of 2022, so this was all in my 2-2, by the way. So the entire selection process started in the beginning of my 2-2, and the final results were out in the towards the end of my 2-2. So around March, we had an aptitude test. So in the aptitude test, there were basic logic questions and physics questions. Very little to do with electronics. It was just like a general aptitude and logical reasoning kind of test. And then in April, I got the call for the technical interview. So my technical interview, and like all technical interviews in general for summer internships, are taken by senior engineers at TI, at least for TI or like any organization for that matter. And so in my interview, my experience was such that they asked me. So in my resume, I wrote that that I really enjoyed digital design. So I think because of that, but other than that, in general also, they asked me a lot of digital design based questions. So these were based on latches and flip flops and the difference between them. They also asked me about FSMs. And Other than that, they also asked me a few logic based questions. These were like mind teasers, like those kind of questions. Um, of like puzzles. And I think there was only one question like that. And they also asked RC circuit based questions. So they would make an RC circuit and they'd ask you like, what are you thinking will happen? Maybe they'll ask you to sketch the output waveform, and then they'll add a few more elements like another capacitor or another resistor. Then they'll ask you how the behavior of the circuit will change on that. Pick ES, and I'd say even like 12th standard physics based questions. So yeah, and then other than this, so this was like the technical aspect of the interview. And towards the second half, or asking me a lot of questions about general electronics, like why I like it, why I chose to apply for this internship. I think it's a good idea to like read up a little bit about what's going on in the industry. So I remember during my interview, we spoke a little bit about sustainability when it comes to electronics and how the semiconductor industry is sort of dealing with the issue of sustainability. And then we also spoke about things like Moore's law. So these are not technically like a CADS based questions, but just I think it's beneficial to know a little bit about the industry. I think it leaves a good impression on the person who is interviewing you, and it makes them realize that you're passionate about this. So that was also a part of my technical interview. I didn't have an HR interview, but I think some companies do that as well. So that's, I think, a general, like, they gauge your personality and your attitude through that. So yeah. I'm sure you guys must be aware that PU releases summer internship chronicles every time there is a SIP cycle. So this was what I had, like, what my seniors had told me. So I'm interning in analog, and after the end of my mentorship program, which was the Wish program, they had asked me whether I want to be interning in analog or digital, and I had chosen analog. But for people who are interested in digital and want to apply only for digital roles, I think these topics and subtopics would be important. Mostly it's digital design. A lot of DD basics are really, like, crucial when it comes to SIP. Like, I remember they had asked me very very basic questions about latches and flip flops, and not certainly, like, not something that's too complicated or like too high level, but like I'd suggest that focus on like simple things, but make sure that you completely understand them. um, then, other than this, all of these topics that are written over here are, I think, pretty important. um, I think STA basics, they don't ask that much in summer internship. That's something that's more important for placements, because in second year you haven't really been taught that. So I'd suggest focus more on the like basic things. And I think Morris Mano is a great way to prepare for digital design. Like, it's a really good book. It has a lot of questions also, and it has a lot of Verilog also, Verilog examples. So that would be really helpful. And other than that, obviously there's the material that PU gives. So yeah, and also this thing that you can do is, if you're targeting a specific company, or even if you're not, like, you can always go on YouTube and put the company's name there and look for interview questions. Now you have to, like, keep in mind that these are generally placement interview questions. So they are, like, you'd obviously be asked something a little bit easier than that, because you haven't done your third year yet. And a lot of courses, a lot of content that is covered in third year, may not be relevant right now. So, but still, it will give you like a good understanding. Like, RC circuit questions would be pretty standard even in SIP interviews. So you can check that out. Um, and oh yeah, so for analog profiles, these are the important topics that you should know. So basically, you should know ES really well. And in ES also, I'd suggest like RLC circuits, and just knowing that how inductors, capacitors work, like where will the current flow, the charging, discharging, and like you should be good with drawing output output waveforms. So one thing in these interviews, at least what I saw in my interview and what I also saw in the PU mock interview that they had taken for placements, is that they don't expect you to immediately come to the answer. So when you're answering their questions, it's more of like a discussion. So they want to know how you reached that conclusion. So step by step, like for example, if they're asking you to draw a waveform, then you can go step by step, like from zero to time equals this much, this will happen because this is supposed to, because this is the circuit. So it's more than the final answer in all of these interviews, especially. They care a lot more about the approach and your thinking process. Even if your answer is not right in the first go, that's okay, as long as you do, like, the interviewer thinks that you have a somewhat of a good approach to the problem. So I'd say RLC circuit is like very, very important. Other than that, basics of MOSFETs and BJTs are important. Like, you should know the different regions of operation, when it will go into saturation, what are the conditions, what are the you should know the graph for it and everything. Um, so that's and they might ask you questions on that. So yeah, I think the basics of MOSFETs and BJTs should be good. And other than that, they might also ask basics of op amps, but I mean, you don't really have to know about it in third year, like in detail. But I'd still suggest that it's always good to know about it, because they're a very integral part of like all circuits you'll deal with if you intern with the company. So it's something that you'll see a lot. So it's always good if you know about it. Also, frequency analysis, body plots, and stuff. So like basic concepts is always good to know. And also, if you have any projects that you've done in your second year, make sure, and if you're putting them on your resume, then make sure that you can talk about them pretty well. Because I mean, they didn't ask me, but they might ask. And if it's on your resume, then make sure that you're able to talk about it confidently, and you have enough knowledge about it. So yeah, I think that was about important topics to prepare. And in general, other than this, like other than the technical aspects and all the preparation, I also think that it's a good idea to know, like not in depth, but in general, know a little bit about the industry and like the current trends in the industry. Like read up a little bit about it, just so you can speak on that if your interviewer asks you, what do you think, where's the industry going and stuff like that. So you can always like look up at current trends and like current news, on Google, and I think it'll leave like a really good impression on your interviewer, and it'll convey to them that you're not just someone who has studied this and doesn't really care about the real world applications. So yeah. And other than that, sources of preparations for analog, like basically what they teach in MUI, like the basics of MUI and basics of ED, that you can prepare from Cedra Smith and Razavi are pretty good. Control systems, they don't ask that much unless the person who is interviewing you is particularly working on something which is control systems related, or unless you bring it if it was a part of your project or something. But it's always good to know. It's a nice course, so you can, if you like it, then you can do that. And but I don't really think they ask control systems per se, from a like objective point of view. Yeah, so I think that's for preparation for analog roles. Again, other than this, also some good skills to have are C programming. You'll need it basically everywhere, no matter what the role is. C programming is something that's very, very fundamental. So you can brush on it. You don't need to know data structures really well, but I think it's a good idea to like brush up on your C programming and make sure that you're like confident with it, and it's not like you don't remember anything from it. So it's a good skill to have. They may also job profile uses it on some level, in some extent. So it's a good skill to have. And if you're specifically targeting digital roles, so you will need Verilog. You might have to learn system Verilog also, like if you actually get the internship working in something like verification or something like that. So for that, Verilog is a good skill to have. And I think this time they covered it also while they were during digital design, I think. So then that's good. And it's always nice to have the knowledge of a software like Spice or Cadence, or even like MATLAB if you have done your project in that. So, or if you have um, like if you have done an SOP in your second year or your third year, or even if you haven't, it's pretty good to have the knowledge of a simulator. And this mostly has been covered in courses like MUI, ADBD, so you don't have to worry about it that much. Like college takes care of that. But in general, like make sure that if these are some good skills to have. So yeah, I think that was it from my side. If you guys want to contact me to like talk about this, or like if you have any doubts, then this is my number, and you can always mail me on this email ID. And I think that was it from my side. Now I'll be open to any questions if you guys have.
So I think I can start now. That was a really informative session, Ira. Um, Thank you for that. So let me just press it. I hope my screen is visible, and I'm audible properly. Like, can somebody please confirm once?
Yes, Poornima, you're audible, and your screen is also visible.
Okay, thank you. I'll just give a small introduction about myself. So I am Poornima, and I'm currently a summer intern in Google hardware. So I'm working on in the validation team basically. So moving to the session. First of all, thanks everybody for coming to the session. So yeah, so we'll just begin with a short description about the process flow, like how exactly the summer internship selection happens, and moving also to how to build a resume. Most of you might have already done this part, but I would like to reiterate a few points to keep in mind when you submit your resume for this selection procedure. Mm, so apart from that, we'll also cover like some preparation. I think Ira also covered like most of it, but yeah, I'll make it more brief now. And about the written round interview, and we'll move to the question answer session. So the selection process. So basically, in from electronics background, uh, companies hire for like take interview interns for analog, digital, and software roles. So I think software was offered by TI this time. So yeah, you can also aim for that. So majorly is analog and digital. Um, so the timeline for the same is like generally they come around mid to end July. So if I remember correctly, mine was on 27th July last year. So yeah, so Google comes a bit early as compared to other companies because they start. Google comes with the software people. So rest of the companies came like a bit late after the semester started. So you can prepare accordingly, basically. Um, so you get the notification basically through your superset. Like most of you must have already enrolled in the superset. You must have got a mail from PU. Or they also notify you using mail. So uh, you know keep an eye on your mail or superset. You can download the app superset app in your mobile phone also, so you get the notifications on time. So don't miss any mail. Be careful about that. And moreover, the internship hiring process basically starts with a pre-placement talk in most of the cases. They keep a small session where they talk about what is being done in the company and all those stuff. So it's really informative session, not just for the internship, but later if you are considering, getting placed there, or if you're going for a job, it's very informative, and they actually talk about the things that is happening in the industry. So it's always good. It's actually very good to attend those sessions. Don't miss those sessions. Um, Followed by that, generally the written round comes like just after the pre-placement talk. So generally there will be two rounds or something. So I'm not pretty sure about this because it varies from company. For Google, if I remember correctly, We just had a online written test, but for TI and Qualcomm, it was offline. They had to go into a classrooms and write down the test. Um, and from there, some companies even give importance to resumes as well. They do a resume shortlisting. So Google generally does resume shortlisting. So written round is given less importance in Google, but obviously you need to perform well. But mostly resume is given more importance. So you need to prepare a really good resume and keep in mind like the different stuff you put in the resume. So once you get shortlisted, either from the written round or through the resume, you'll be called for the interview. So um, mine was an online interview. So there used to be generally 2 to 3 uh, interview sessions where they'll two will be technical and one will be HR. But HR is very minimal when it comes to interns. They generally the HR round is more prevalent in case of placements, but still it's important. They might have like even they might like merge it the HR round with the technical round as well. They'll ask like 1 or 2 questions. Yeah, so that's how the process flow looks like. Moving forward about the resume, so one important thing, if you guys can kind of use a template or something, it will be really great. Like Superset actually has a template where you can like fill up. Uh, it's always good to follow some predefined standards in case of resume and all, because you can be on the safer side basically. Or else you have like options like uh, the you can code in latex basically your resume. There is a site called Overleaf where you can do that. So there are a lot of templates available in Overleaf where you can just go and type in and get a very good resume. So that can also be done. So it's always better to use a template. So make sure you put in stuff which are you're pretty clear and clear about what you put in your resume. You should be answerable. Like if any question comes from whatever is put in the resume, you should be able to answer them. So if you're not confident about a project or something, just take it off your resume. You did it. So make it clear and concise and answerable. So it should be answerable at any point. So if you're not confident about anything, I'm just reiterating this. If you're not confident about something, just it's better to keep it off the resume. Just put whatever you are comfortable with. Be it projects, you can also list down the subjects you have done. Uh, let's say some subjects you are more confident about than others. So uh, basically, that has an advantage during the interview because the interviewers will look into your resume and ask questions. So if you write down the subjects you are comfortable with, then mostly you can observe that they'll limit their questions to those subjects you have listed. So that's one thing you can do. It's really optional, but it's a good practice. And be truthful. Don't write anything you are not confident about, or don't don't make up stuff in your resume because later you're going to be questioned about each and every line in your resume. Proofread it. You don't need any spelling mistakes. Don't make any clerical errors in your resume. You can ask your peers or your friends, colleagues, your seniors, anybody to just go through your resume once, and they might give you good suggestions. So review is also very important. So keep these points in mind when you prepare your resume. If you have already done, then it's well and good. But if you are going to do it, you can keep these things in mind. And also one more thing, include short description about whatever you're putting. Some, let's say you're putting about a project. So don't just write the heading of the project and leave it there. Just include a very small description about what the project is about. That will be really helpful. Yeah. And moving on to the preparation part, I think Ira covered it really well. So uh, I have just listed down a few subjects, few topics basically you need to be careful about basically. So obviously for the analog part, be clear about the RLC circuits. I would say be very, don't solve like very difficult problems or anything. You just have to know the concepts very clearly. Basically, in analog or in RLC part, they'll ask you to plot some graphs. Mostly, that's what they do. So it's just they ask you about the concepts. That's more important here. They test you based on your concepts. uh, there is nothing more than that. So be very, you might have done all this stuff in ES, so just take your ES book, just revise through it once. That will be more than enough. Even for the written part, I think that is more than sufficient. Obviously, MUI, signals and system and control systems, little bit. If you get a chance, it's like basically go through whatever you have done in your college only, your classes. Take your notes if you have good notes. Ask your friends for their notes and just go through them and have a good idea about like make your basics clear. Coming to the digital part, digital design is a very important subject. Most of the questions in uh, the written round and your interviews will be based on DD. Uh, some of the parts you might want to focus in DD might be something like K-maps, FSMs, and some questions. So I heard like some of my friends say there were like a lot of questions based on frequency divider, flip flops, etc. Like how to, and also like making a mux out of a decoder out of a mux. A lot of such questions can come, and most of them have been done in your tutorials, so you can just refer them. And also, if you have listed Verilog as a comfortable programming language, they might ask you to code something in Verilog, preferentially with some sequential design, something like a counter or even a frequency divider can be asked. So make sure you're comfortable with. If you are listing that as a language, then be sure you know how to do all this stuff. STA, I would say just go through STA, static timing analysis once, though it's not covered yet. It's always good because I have seen like a few questions in the written test uh, based on STA. It's very direct. There are a lot of YouTube tutorials where they have explained it very nicely. So uh, I have also like at the end of the presentation, I have kept a link also if you guys want to go through. So it's pretty important. It's a very scoring thing. So you don't have to miss on that, right? Um, computer architecture basics can also be done. Like I would say, do MUPI end wala part really well, like where you have done about cache, multi-threading, and all the stuff. So little bit about memory as well. You can also do some extra reading on memory and all because those are really important. Um, uh, do extra reading not just about memory, about overall like something related to pointers. So that is really important. So from here, if we go to the written round, so yeah, that's about the preparation, and I think most of it was also covered by Ira. So you can also better follow like what is done till now in the college textbooks, whatever you have followed, just slides also will do. Just go through them, revise them once. I mean, it will take hardly like 1 week or something to revise through everything because you already know everything and it's just a revision and you have just done these courses. So moving forward to the written round, there can be MCQ questions. In my case, it was actually mostly MCQ questions only. We didn't have any as such final answer type, but I think there can also be final answer type questions as well. So prepare accordingly. Uh, there can also be mental ability questions. So just I don't know, like you can find a lot of resources online to solve some problems, and they are really very easy. I don't think that should be a difficult part for you guys. Moreover, try to attempt as many questions as you can. These were some given to us by our seniors, so I'm just reiterating them. Like try to attempt as many questions as you can. The tests will generally be of limited time, so keep a check on time as well. So keep these things in mind, and that's about the written round. Moving forward for the interview, generally there will be 2 or 3 rounds in the interview, um, two technical and one HR, or probably just two technical interviews with a merged HR. You should. So this is a term I have seen many seniors use, and I'm also reiterating it. Think loudly. Whatever is coming to your, you know, whatever thought is happening in your head, just talk it out, talk it loud, because they don't want the final answer. They just want to know how you think. Even if you don't reach the final answer, it's absolutely fine. They just want to analyze you, how you think, and all those stuff. You might end up not knowing answer for some questions as well during the interview process. Don't panic at all. You just say you don't know, this is not covered, or something like that. Um, like try make an attempt to answer, obviously, but if you don't know at all, just say this was not covered, or you don't know about it. It's as simple as that. And moreover, make sure you understand the question asked really properly. uh, you can even counter, just ask them, uh, more about the question, like more about some variables or something like that. Mostly they'll just give you a very short description about the question that they're asking, and they expect you to ask back. So it's good to ask, like make it clear, the question clear, and explain your answers really well. Like you can actually use, so during the interview process, you can use some. So in my case, my interview was online, so I used a whiteboard platform in Google Meet to explain the answers to my interviewer. You can also use that or any other whiteboard platform available online. Or you can also, like, if it is a one-to-one, offline interview, then use the pen and paper and explain things. Right. So it's easier to communicate by writing stuff than talking and explaining stuff. So try to write it down somewhere and explain things. That will help a lot. So interviews basically test your fundamentals. So make sure that it's really very clear, and don't panic during the interviews. Uh, you will enjoy the process finally. It's You might be scared because this might be your first interview or something, but they will make sure that you are comfortable, and just give it a try. It's a good experience, right? After all, like giving an interview, and yeah, they'll make sure that you are really comfortable and enjoy the process basically. So these are some in useful links you can try. So there is a playlist for STA I have listed. So everything regarding the STA, how it came, why it came, everything is explained in this tutorial. So if you have already done, then it's well and good. If you have not done, then please you can go through them. Or there are a lot of other tutorials available also. So yeah, this is one of them. And for Verilog, there is one site called Chip Verify that where they have, I think, like Verilog was covered for you guys in DD, so it's not a big issue. You might know very well. But still, if you have not done properly during your DD, course, you can go through Chip Verify, or there is another link I've mentioned. So this is an NPTEL site. It's a course basically where everything is explained really well. So this NPTEL course also has a basic introduction to computer architecture as well. So this might be very useful for you guys. So you might want to go through that as well. And there is one link for resume building the template. Basically, you can use overleaf templates as well. So this is yeah, I think that's all from my side. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Yeah, I think somebody raised their hand. Namrata.
Hi, Namrata, do you have a
Yeah,
question?
yeah, I have a question. First of all, thank you so much for the
Please.
insights that you gave. and Ira gave. I wanted to ask you mentioned that in the resume you mention only the things you are very confident about. So when it comes to certain CDCs that we are not so confident or we aren't comfortable, in my case, some analog subjects, should I not mention them at all?
Yeah, don't mention them. That will be a safe option. See, it's not like they'll not ask anything from that, but generally what I have seen is like for interviews, they ask questions from what you have listed in the resume. So to be on the safer side, just put what you're comfortable now. So
Yeah, but
that that way you're giving an option to the interviewer,
okay. But
right?
wouldn't
So
the resume seem a little incomplete with two, three, or maybe two subjects missing? Like, is it okay?
it's
I think as a general
fine, I
rule,
guess.
don't put
It's not a big
anything in the
issue.
resume unless they want you to ask questions on it. So let's say you're not confident about some course, right? So don't
Yeah.
mention it in your resume at all, because once if you do, like, I think it's an exception if you mention something on your resume. Like make sure you're like very very good at it. If you're just okay at some course or if you're bad at it, then don't mention it at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So to be on the safer side, don't put. That's better, right? Generally, they ask more questions from what you have put in the resume. So if you put something that you're not comfortable with and then they ask, it might be a mistake. So
Okay.
um,
And also, I'd say don't be worried about your resume being kind of empty, because like this is your first internship, or like this is your first time sitting for internships, right? And you're not even done with, you're not even a BTech yet. So they kind of they don't expect you to have a lot of things on your resume. Like most people who will apply for these internships don't have those many, they don't have that much of stuff to show on their resume. So it's okay if you feel like you don't have enough. Like that's most of the people,
Mm-hmm.
because these are just internships. These are not like placement
like everything on the same board.
shortlisting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Like
you
most
don't
people
see,
applying
don't
have just finished
think
their
about
second
like
year.
feeling.
So
Yeah.